welcome you to the Salt Lake City Planning Commission meeting for August 13th, 2025. I want you to note the public meeting rules, which are posted at the entrance to this room or in Section D of the Planning Commission Policies and Procedures. If you want to make a comment this evening, it's too late because there was a deadline a few hours ago. No, if you want to make a comment, you can fill out a card and then you can approach the podium when we open the public hearing for the items on tonight's agenda. Okay, next thing we're going to do is roll call, and we'll have the Secretary of the Commission of the Department do that.
Amy Berry.
Here.
Amy Burrows.
Here.
Mike Christensen.
Here.
Landon Krasik.
Here.
Richard Leverett.
Here.
Lila Rosenfield.
Here.
Brian Scott. Here. Michael Vela. Here. And we have Jeffrey Barrett and McCall Christensen who are not here. So we have a total of 8 commissioners, enough for a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, now is a report of the chair, but I don't have anything to report, so maybe the vice chair does.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Now is a report of the director.
Yeah, just a few things. First, I don't know if the commission is aware of this or not, but one of our planning managers, Mayara Lima, is leaving the city. Her last week is next week, and she's actually moving out of the country. So we have, and we're excited to announce that Daniel Echevarria is going to become a planning manager. So you'll be seeing more of Daniel in that role as we move, transition away from Mayara's leaving. So we're pretty excited about Daniel, very, very sad about Mayara leaving. And then the other thing, just wanted to give you a heads up on some upcoming projects that maybe you are aware of or that you're not, but things that will be coming to the Planning Commission. Obviously, there's some private developments that have generated a lot of community interest. Most notably is a zoning amendment in Sugar House at the old Sizzler site. That's probably not going to be coming to the Planning Commission until October at the earliest. So wanted to get that on your radar. We have a couple other smaller text amendments that will be coming up dealing with when land use approvals expire, and then some technical cleanups to some of our definitions in our code. But the one thing that is probably a much bigger thing that is a little bit outside the norm for the Planning Commission is there was a state law passed this last year that is requiring cities that have a wildland urban interface to adopt not a new, but not yet, but what's called the Wildland Urban Interface Fire Code. And so this doesn't mean a lot from a zoning perspective, but it does mean a lot from a building code perspective. But because under state law it's considered a land use regulation, it is something that has to come through the Planning Commission before the council can adopt it. So the state code requires us to have that adopted by the end of this calendar year. So it will be coming also in September to you. But it's mostly a building code related thing. It includes some reference in the zoning code to when there's conflicts between what the zoning code regulates and what that building code regulates. So this could be building materials, mostly landscaping. It only applies to those properties. It includes a map of where it would apply, but it only applies to those properties that are next to natural lands, mostly in the foothills, but also along some of our river corridors and things like that. So the reason why we have to adopt it is if we don't, we're considered out of compliant and we would not be eligible for state funding related to fighting a wildfire in the city. So kind of an important deal, but it actually is a pretty good code, pretty good thing for the cities to adopt, and obviously getting a lot of traction from events in other states particularly in Los Angeles area where they've had everyone knows they had a wildfire that turned into a structure fire. And very, very large. So anyway, those are just things that are coming that we wanted to get on your radar so that you're aware of those. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Now it's time for the open forum. If the commissioners have anything that they want to discuss that's not on the agenda. Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda: a design review modifications for Lotus Alchemy at approximately 48 West, 700 South, and approval of the meeting minutes from the July 23rd meeting. We can approve all of the items on the consent agenda, or we can move some off into the regular agenda. So I'm going to open the public hearing for items for the design review modifications. Does anyone wish to speak on that item? The Lotus Alchemy project? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the commission.
I'd like to move that we move the Lotus Alchemy. That would be, one moment, let me pull up the number. I would like to move that we move PLN, PCM, where is it? PLM PCM 2022-00442 to the regular agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Rosenfield and a second from Commissioner Barry. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, we'll vote on that. Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Vila,
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. So that item will move to our regular agenda. We have 1 item left on the consent agenda, if anyone wants to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Wednesday, July 23rd.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Christensen,
I can second that.
second by Commissioner Vela. Okay, we'll vote on that. Commissioner Vela? Commissioner Vela?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik?
I'll abstain as I was not in attendance.
Thank you. Commissioner Leverett?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen?
Yes.
I'll also vote yes, so we have all yeses with 1 abstaining. So we approve the meeting minutes. Okay, so now we'll go to the regular agenda, and I'm going to put the Lotus Alchemy project first on the regular agenda. So, hi, introduce
Sorry.
yourself and your project, and then
I
we'll...
jumped the gun coming up a little early. Thank you, Chair. So I'm Chrissy Gilmore, and I am a planning manager, and I worked on this design review back in 2022. Oh, dang. There we go. And so they have requested a modification to the design review. They were before you last summer with the modification, and now I think primarily to reduce costs and also ease of maintenance, they're back again, although the applicant is here if you'd like them to speak. And we are recommending approval of these modifications. This is a very short presentation, but they are primarily modifying the balconies, changing them from glass panels to aluminum vertical pickets, replacing the metal facade panels with fiber cement panels, replacing the overhead doors on the bid-block walkway facade with ground level unit windows, and then reducing the storefront height by removing the top transom sections on a window. And then here's the elevations. It's kind of hard to see the changes because it's balconies, so it's a little difficult to see, but the balconies have been changed from the glass picket to, or the glass to vertical metal or pickets. And then this dark gray is the siding that has changed from the metal panel siding to fiber cement panel siding. And then on this is the east elevation, the mid-block walkway elevation, the same changes with the building materials, same changes, with the balconies. But then if you look at the mid-block walkway, right here where you can see my mouse, there was like garage door opening windows, and now they've just been changed to regular windows. On this elevation, the changes are primarily the materials, balconies, but you can see right here on this corner that there is the reduction in the window height from that storefront. And then on the north elevation, the changes are primarily just the materials and balconies. And that concludes my presentation, but we are recommending approval, and the applicant is here.
Okay, let's have the applicant can make a presentation or say what you'd like to about their request. You'll have 10 minutes if you need that. You could turn that on.
Hi, my name is Andrea Palmer. I work for the Lotus Company representing our project, Lotus Alchemy. We are at 215 South State Street, just here in downtown. We are very close on closing on our financing for this project, projected to close in November, with construction slated to start just shortly thereafter. We'll have to do some demolition work, and then we'll proceed on to construction. As Chrissy mentioned, we are looking for approval on these modifications. As we've been working with our construction team and our property management team, we've been looking for some guidance in not only ways to find some ways to save some costs for construction, but also save some cost in our operations of the project. We felt that these revisions would help in both of those cases, while also not compromising the product and the overall aesthetic of the building, and the character it brings to the neighborhood. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Hello, my name is Adam Hughes with the Lotus Company. I would say that Lotus is recognized as a design-forward firm. We take a lot of great pride in the work that we do, and we've been recognized in the industry with Lotus Apartments, Republic One and Republic Two, and Lotus Gallagher, Sugar House, with our designs. We're very proud of this design. We feel like it keeps with the aesthetic of the overall zone, while also balancing the needed economics for the project in order to move forward with our financing. And we were very thoughtful in terms of looking at what materials we would supplant on the exterior facade, as well as maintenance costs for things like roll-up garage doors. We have those at a lot of our properties, and they've become a maintenance nightmare. They often don't work, and trying to find replacement parts have lead times of months, and we just can't have that and meet operational needs for tenants, especially in these types of live-work units that we're contemplating. So with that, we'd welcome any questions, comments, or concerns from the Planning Commission and hope to address those.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions for the applicant or staff right now? Them?
Is the interior height of the storefronts planned to change, or is it just sort of the exterior appearance of the height of the storefronts?
That's a great question. Yeah, the interior will remain the same. The transom windows represent additional points of failure from a ceiling perspective. And in discussing that change with our broker, they didn't see much if any, impact at all in terms of our leasability or the usefulness of the space for tenants.
So regarding that, Chrissy, do you have any idea of what the height then gets reduced to, or is it just another one of those like false narratives that we get sometimes?
So I don't have the exact height in front of me, but they would still meet all the design standards for ground floor glass percentages, but I don't have the height right
So we're merely talking about ground floor height of windows, not so much interior height, which is following
Right.
up on what was
Yeah, the
just the
interior height
question.
will stay the same.
Okay, how tall is that, if you remember?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Any of you?
Let me see if I can see it on one of these.
I don't remember offhand
Okay,
what that height is. But,
neither do I, so
Yeah.
fair enough, okay.
But yeah, this design is before you for the design review because of the requested changes to the exterior of the building. There's not any interior modifications.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh,
And
go
then
ahead.
with
Go ahead.
regard to the balconies, so the balconies were previously intended to be glass. Was that sort of, I was not present on the planning commission at the time that this was originally approved. When the decision was made, was the fact that the balconies were going to be glass sort of a relevant component to the approval? Was it considered to increase the livability or decrease the impact on the community of having a rather large building go up in this area, which is obviously downtown, so I love to see the new units, but I do wonder, like, to my mind, that's a design change that leads to a slight difference in feel of the building at the very least, and I think that that's important that we at least be conscious of that. Was anybody?
I
Sorry.
can answer. I mean, I was at that meeting, and I don't remember the planning commission discussing that. Doesn't, ring a bell in my mind, but they might have, but I don't remember that happening.
I don't remember that being part of the conversation either. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now we're going to open the public hearing. If anyone wishes
You
to...
already did that, Madam Chair. Do you have to do that again?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to just reopen it, just in case
Okay.
someone thought of something to say. If you'd like to speak on this project, you can approach the podium, and you have 2 minutes to speak if you want to. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing again. And now we're in executive session, so we can just discuss this project. You can ask questions, you can make motions.
I'll just say that I wish we had a little bit better renderings of what the exterior will look like with the reduction in glass. If we're asking for that exception, that's really the only one that I'm really concerned about. In terms of the balcony, this is something that didn't stand out to anybody. It was just part of the project, and we were like, okay, if it had been aluminum vertical pickets at that time, we probably would have said, okay. I don't recall it being a distinctive feature that stood out when we made our decision, but this was a while ago, and I don't remember exactly. So I personally have no problems with 1 through 3, and 4 I'm leaning now more towards it's fine, but I think these are the types of things that would have been nice if we had better renderings in the report of what that actually was going to come out looking like, so that we could determine if it was a non-starter or if it was a substantial change. I guess my follow-up question, sorry, Landon, is can you just replace the transom windows with regular windows to keep the percentage of glass on the ground floor? Or do they have to be removed for actual walls?
Yeah, we would replace those with cement.
Is there a reason why you chose to totally remove them instead of just put actual windows instead of transom windows?
I think it gets back to the original point of it just introduces additional points of exterior ceiling with the project, and a reduction in cost would be achieved by removing them. You also have to recognize that between last summer when we appeared before you and now, there have been significant macroeconomic events, including tariffs, that are impacting pricing on construction projects across the city. Our project is one that has faced significant headwinds with that, which has required us to look at ways in which we can create savings from a construction standpoint. We felt like the removal of the transom provided cost savings that wouldn't impact the leasability or the experience of the project in talking with our brokerage community.
I tend to agree with you. And if anyone else doesn't have I actually don't have the motion sheet in front of me. I can pull it up really quick, but if somebody has it and wants to make a motion, then that would be great. Unless it looks like, do you have something? Okay. Well, thank you. All right. So I would like to make a motion about PLN PCM 2022-00442. The motion is to approve based on the information presented in discussion. I move that the commission approves this design review modification application as recommended by staff.
I can second that.
You're welcome. Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Krasik and a second by Commissioner Vela. Any discussion to that motion? Okay, we'll vote. Okay. Commissioner Vela.
Aye.
Commissioner Rosenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry.
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik.
Yes.
I'll also vote yes. So that is approved. That's the
Thank you
final
all.
word. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, our next item is, it's item number 3 on our regular agenda. It's zoning amendment for master development agreement for Jazz Arena parking garage at approximately 301 West South Temple. And I think we have a comment before we start considering that.
Yes. At the urging of the director, I need to disclose to my fellow planning commissioners that I made some comments on social media regarding the aesthetics of the proposed parking garage prior to becoming aware that it would be an application that would be coming before the planning commission. When it dawned on me that it might be, I reached out to the director, who replied that it likely would be, and then I deleted my comments. While I do not feel that this necessitates that I recuse myself, I will leave that decision up to my fellow commissioners.
Thank you. So when we have, I think conflict of interest is the part of the rules that apply in this case. That's in section B of our policies and procedures, number 13, and I think F. You agree with me, attorney, maybe?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit weird to have ex parte communications be part of a conflict of interest, but I think what we're trying to get at here is, are there any issues where a commissioner's participation might need closer examination? This is not the first time this has come up. With ex parte communications, you know, the things we worry about are the optics of that. And that's based on whatever the individual circumstances are. But also, something to keep in mind is that a petitioner or an applicant has certain due process rights. And the courts have said that the essential part of the due process rights is to receive a fair opportunity to be heard and considered. And One thing to keep in mind is if there might be some indications of bias in advance or prior decision-making, does that implicate some due process problems? So again, this is up to the commission to decide whether a fellow commissioner should be recused from this particular item. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
I am a little rusty. It's been a while.
Thank you. So there are two ways to handle this. The Commissioner Christensen can decide to recuse himself if he feels like he should, or if we feel like there's an actual or apparent or reasonably foreseeable conflict of interest based on ex parte communications, we can vote to decide whether he should be included in the conversation and in the voting. So, does anyone want to discuss that or make a motion or ask what we think, or?
So this is the second time this has come up in my tenure, so it's rare. I didn't see what the comments were or any of that, and so I can't make a judgment on that, but I think this is an interesting project, and as it's part of a bigger thing, and so my personal feeling is that it would be it would be good to recuse yourself just for the appearance of it. Not that I think you have a bias or personally feel like it would color the discussion with you. And I have no idea what you said. So I just, and thinking back on the previous one that happened probably 5 years ago, maybe 6, it's just more about the appearance so that we're a decision-making body that doesn't interfere with then the process beyond that, so that it's clean.
I did see what you said. My preference would be for you to recuse yourself of this because your comment was on this part of the project right now and not the whole thing and the whole city and that kind of stuff. I just think maybe this part could be separate, and then we all just carefully don't make comments on social media about projects that we might see. That would be my preference.
Having not seen the comment, I am not sure it would make sense to recuse yourself, to be honest. I think that, if I'm recalling from my land use law course, which was a while ago now, the bar for due process violation is quite high. I think that there's an article about it where it imagines the judge as like an old-timey cartoon character whose top hat pops off. Like you have to shock the judge with sort of a level of bias in order to really to make it a due process violation. I think like if it were clear that you had a particular bias against this particular applicant, then it would obviously be appropriate to recuse yourself. But if it's simply a situation where, having seen the project, you brought opinions forward publicly that you were going to bring forward anyway, I'm, based on your lived experience, based on what you're already bringing into the commission, I don't necessarily think that makes a substantial difference, especially if you believe that given the opportunity to review the actual report and the full documentation in its wholeness, you would be willing to change your mind. And I think that by signing up to this commission, we commit to a willingness to change our mind, to bring ourselves in, and then also be willing to take in the data. And I'm not sure how much saying what you think beforehand is that substantively different than just thinking what you think beforehand, unless it's involved in a longer discussion in which people try to influence you or peddle to your particular interests or desires outside, in which case, again, it becomes a problem. So if the majority of the rest of the commission wishes to have the commissioner recuse himself. Obviously, that is what we're going to do, but I don't think I would support recusal.
Just let us go in order a little bit. I didn't see the comment. I don't think we have a social media policy. I don't think this rises to the level of a conflict or really even ex parte communications as defined in our document, but I'm also not the lawyer for this. So I don't see a reason to recuse yourself. I think that we, as Planning Commission, we do interact with the public in different ways. I think there are public meeting rules around all of us interacting together in a way, but I think that interacting with the public or learning public opinion or stating your opinion publicly about something doesn't rise to the level of conflict here, and so I don't think there's a reason to recuse yourself.
I don't have anything to add. Do either of you have something to say on this? If not, I would like to make a motion.
Can I really quick ask if, let me ask if Commissioner Christensen wants to change his mind or state a position or something?
I have one question for council, which is whether the nature of this being a legislative application versus an administrative application has any bearing on,
I'll tell you, it certainly gives me less heartburn, given that there are no appeal rights that follow tonight's action by the commission. That being said, we don't do this process for nothing, right? So again, I'm not making any judgment calls here, just letting you know what the concerns are. It is my understanding that my office has already given advice that the social media comment was ex parte.
Thank you. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I just would like to make a motion that the commission votes on whether or not to include Mike Christensen in the discussion, and I would look for a second.
Is your motion to include him?
Right.
Yeah.
Can we state that as an affirmative motion, that either your motion is either to require a recusal or to not require
Yeah, my
recusal?
motion is to require a recusal from Mike Christensen, and I would look for a second.
Can I clarify if recusal would be just on this application, on this part of the project and not the whole project?
Just on this application with the parking garage.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Krasik and a second by Commissioner Berry. Any discussion to that? Okay.
Is there a line between voting privileges and discussion privileges? Is
No.
that something that we can split?
Once you're recused, you can't be part of the conversation.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they go together, I think. Okay, ready to vote? We're going to go in alphabetical order. That's Commissioner Berry.
Yes.
I'm too slow at alphabetizing. Commissioner Christensen.
I will abstain for obvious reasons.
Who thinks they're next? I think Leverett. Commissioner Leverett.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield.
No.
Commissioner Scott.
No.
Commissioner Vela.
Yes.
I will also vote yes. So that's 4 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 abstain for you to be recused from this item. So come back in a minute when we're done. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just editorialize here for a second?
Sure.
We really appreciate that Commissioner Christensen brought this to our attention and that he's been forthright about it. And this isn't a stain on him or on the commission. It's just these things happen. We live in a social media world and we have feelings. So appreciate it.
I agree with that statement too. And then also, maybe we should clarify, because I feel like we do have a social media policy. So maybe, and if we don't all know that or think that, maybe we should clarify if we have a
We
social
can
media
certainly
policy.
add something to the policies and procedures. I think we're already working on an update, so we'll add something along those lines.
Okay.
The city does have a social media policy, and I'm not well versed in it right now, and that's probably maybe something that can be recirculated or whatever.
Okay. We'll learn more about that later. Thank you. We'll see you in a minute. Are you okay to stay until the next two items?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you want to introduce yourself and tell us about this application?
Yes, it's probably pretty obvious I'm not Brooke Olson. She is on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. My name is John Anderson. I'm a planning manager. Today we're here to talk about a zoning text amendment at 301 West South Temple. This is involving a development agreement. This is a process that's authorized by state code. Obviously, this would involve the Jazz Arena Investors LLC as well as Salt Lake City, because Salt Lake City owns the property and not the building. The proposed structure is 7 stories in height. It's approximately 89 feet at its tallest point. There's some sloping on the site, so it varies a little bit. It's about approximately 89 feet. It would consist of 452 parking stalls. The basement of the structure will consist of parking, but also loading areas for events. You can imagine there's a lot of trucks and things coming in and out of there all the time. The development agreement is proposed in order to modify or waive some land use regulations that apply to the property. It's zone D4, so it would be those design standards basically. Staff is recommending approval, but with conditions that I'll go through in this presentation. Sorry, we'll move on. So in this, just as a FYI at the very beginning, any modifications to development agreement, it'd be very similar to like a plan development or a design review, where we have minor modifications that the planning director can make, and anything that's major would have to go back through this process. So it would come back to the planning commission and then to the city council. Excuse me. So if we look at the site here, I think we're pretty aware where the Delta Center is. It's an interesting site because it has 4 different street frontages, with First South, South Temple, Third West, and Fourth West. Let me go back. Sorry, this wasn't my presentation. I'm getting ahead of myself, so I apologize. So the proposed agreement is limited in scope, so it's only going to address the proposed parking structure on the Delta Center block. There have been other agreements that have gone to City Council. This was not discussed at that time. Any other changes, any more development that happens on those blocks, this is not going to be impacting that. So the development agreement includes a design set of plans for the construction, and the approval of the SDA is required to modify the required design standards and construct the garage as proposed. That design set of plans would be used as, so when they go to apply for their permit, we'd say, basically you're approving the design and as it's laid out in there. So the site is under a lot of construction right now. If you've been over there, you'll know that. They're attempting to transform the arena into a dual sport venue. They do have a limited permit right now, which allows them to start on the footings and foundation in that loading area. So if you've been by, there is some construction there. Without this development agreement, they're not going to be able to go above ground. They could basically put a cap on there. So without that, that's kind of where we're at. The parking structure, you can see where the arrow is here, is supposed to be constructed above that loading area at the southwest corner of the block at 4th West and 1st South. This is just a street view picture of what it currently looks like. As you can see, it is just parking and loading right now. There isn't a lot of activity on that portion of the block. This will shows a site plan here with the arena, and the shaded areas would be new construction. The base of the structure was mainly basically creating airspace so those bigger trucks and things can get in and out. And that portion is 35 feet. As it steps back, that's when we get to the 7-story portion. And I think that's 75 feet from the corner. There are retaining walls on the site now. They'll be rebuilt in approximately the same location and constructed to help support the base of the structure and the ramp. There are 2 new drive approaches and a vehicular access ramp are proposed along Fourth West. You can kind of see them at the top left corner of this image. And we'll talk about those a little bit more detail as well later. There is a pedestrian bridge on the 2nd level of structure which will provide pedestrian access into the arena itself. This is a rendering of the proposed structure. It's designed as an open frame steel and concrete structure. The Fourth West and First South street-facing facades, which the design standards are only applied to those street-facing facades, will consist of a mix of screening materials. The loading area, kind of the base here at the ground level, is proposed to be landscape concrete, because I have that wall there, and then woven wire mesh screening. The upper 6 levels would have a perforated aluminum panel. So you can see here it features a mountain range design. When we look at the standards of approval for this type of application, these are the standards that we're looking at, whether it's consistent with city's goals and policies, the purpose of the zoning district, overlay districts if involved, implements the best professional planning and design, any impacts on adjacent properties, and community benefit. Staff did review those, and you can find a detail of those standards, this is attachment D and E of the staff report. Talking about the design modifications, and I'll let the applicant discuss this as well with you when they have a presentation as well. Really, the crux of this is that ground floor. Most of the standards can be met, but that ground floor, because of things like active ground floor use, glass, doors, those are the things that are proposed to not be included in this. There are also some current design standards for parking structures. They are found in multiple sections of the zoning code. So as some of you know, there is a pending text amendment at the city council level which would simplify and consolidate these standards into one section, which would make it much easier for us to implement. The other one that's just this last one is the maximum drive approach width for proposed curb cut along Fourth West, which I will discuss later in more detail. So again, primary modifications the seeking is related to the ground floor activation. Currently, street-facing facades of parking structures in downtown districts are required to be wrapped with use other than parking. I think we're aware, but just to mention again, the building is pretty unique because it has frontage on 4 streets. This area currently serves as the parking and loading area, kind of the back of the house for their operations for the arena. As proposed, the structure will only consist of parking and loading. The ground floor structure street-facing facades will mainly consist of airspace, like we mentioned. The applicant is proposing enhanced landscaping in place of the ground floor active use to provide some visual interest and pedestrian-oriented development at the street level. So this would include these walls, their seating, things like that. So any of the walls that are existing, again, will be reconstructed in their place. Staff reviewed this and found that the enhanced landscaping would likely not be enough. And so we are recommending a condition that there is additional visual interest be incorporated along the retaining walls at the base of the structure street-facing facade. Staff can work with the applicants to implement that. We didn't specifically have, I'm not going to tell them exactly how to do that, but we do certainly feel like there could be more done with that wall. All right, screening facade. So they're proposing a mix of screening materials on the upper level of the structure street-facing facade. However, staff is of the opinion that the wire mesh screening, that's on the base here. You can see, as you're looking at that photo, you can actually see the kind of cross beams. That it's not providing adequate visual interest or screening of the actual loading. And so as a condition, staff would like to work with them to find something that would provide more screening. And so again, this would just be looking at extending perhaps the perforated aluminum panels proposed to the top all the way down, just to, again, provide some additional screening. So with that last request regarding the drive approach, the maximum drive approach in the zone is 30 feet. They would like to put that in a 43-foot. I mean, as you can imagine, before and after events, the arena has a lot of pedestrians and a lot of people coming and going. And so safety is really important. So they did submit a traffic management plan, and they have been working with the Transportation Division, who did say that they were okay with the current design. They've been working with them. The initial design, they had a lot more concerns. They made some changes to it and get their recommendation. Speaking of this, especially pedestrians and vehicles, as of right now, there is not a bicycle, like they're not required bike parking. But as a condition of approval, we'd request the applicant include bicycle parking on the property in close proximity to the primary entrance, one of them of the arena, just to improve pedestrian access to the site and help to support alternative modes of transportation, help get people out of their cars. So with that, it's staff's opinion that the request does meet those standards review with those conditions that were listed in the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. The applicants are here and they do have a presentation prepared.
Great, let's have the applicants come and speak. You can have 10 minutes if you need it. Introduce yourself. Please.
There we go. Thank you. Hey, good evening and welcome. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Jim Olson. I'm the president of the Utah Jazz and an executive with Smith Entertainment Group. As a part of our team, Addie McNamara, she's also with SEG, Sports Entertainment Group. Nick Rouzier is with CAA Icon. They are the owner's rep on our entire project with the arena that includes the parking garage. Bruce Baird is counsel and been working very closely with us. And then we didn't have a seat for our good friend Saeed Banyati, who's with Walter P. Moore, who is the engineer on the project. So really appreciate Nick and Saeed flying in. They're not local, but this was important to us and appreciate them coming in. Just a few notes that I want to reference. The timing of this project is very important. We will be welcoming patrons back to the arena in early October. October 2nd is our first NHL hockey game of the year. And so we really appreciate all the staff and everyone that's been working with us on this project to make sure that we get all the details and can thoroughly discuss them. We are in need of the building, what we call the podium structure, which is the covering over the lower level that was explained. That will provide safety for pedestrians and other attendees that are coming to the arena to get that space covered by early October. I'll say a few things that are a little bit repetitive, but hopefully it just helps clarify a lot of the issues at hand. Currently, the southwest corner of the Delta Center is below grade. And as mentioned, for concerts, games, other events, we have a lot of loading that goes in and out of there, as well as parking for players and other staff members. As we looked at renovating the Delta Center and the development of the entire entertainment district, which will come eventually, we saw a real need for parking. We do not control any parking around the arena. We have lease agreements and other contracts with other property owners to help secure parking for our events, but we do not own and or personally control any of those spaces. 100% of that parking is controlled by other parties. So with the sale of the West Block and the Salt Palace Convention Center, we now will not have access to parking that we've had directly east of us that's been part of the convention center. And the Park Place lot, which we refer to as Block 85 northeast of the arena, is owned and operated by the LDS Church. We have a contract, but we know that the day is going to come where it's very likely that that block could be developed. Our goal of building vertically allows us to maximize the space that really is dead space right now. As mentioned, we call it the back lot for loading and very limited parking. The demand for our parking continues to grow, especially as we increase. We've now doubled the sporting events with NHL hockey, and our concert and other type of event business continues to grow as Salt Lake City has grown and the market grows and becomes a place where more shows are wanting to come and play. Covering the current backlot parking and loading area allows us to provide protection from the seasonal weather that we have. As you can imagine, both the NBA and NHL seasons, a lot of those seasons a lot of the timing of those seasons take place during the winter, and we have a lot of struggles with weather. We are confident that the project does not set any kind of precedent because there's really no other building really in the state of Utah that has the types of events and professional sport games that we do. And once again, the demand for parking for these events just continues to grow. Post-renovation of the Delta Center, we'll be welcoming 17,000 fans to our hockey games and 19,000 fans to our NBA games. And as I mentioned, many other concerts, family shows, and other events that take place. We do highly encourage and have been publicly proactive in trying to communicate the opportunity for public transportation. Quite frankly, public transportation does not provide enough for all of our patrons to make it to our events, and parking is still in great demand. Let me just touch very quickly on the three parts of the development. Due to the base level, the lower level parking that currently exists, that it's below grade, the loading requirements that we have for all the events, this corner is not adaptable to street activation and habitable space that is required by city code. We're aware of that code. The way that we have to load in and out and utilize this space does not allow for that. I mentioned concerts. For specific concerts, we may have 30 semi-trucks coming to load and unload for the show. For sporting events, numerous buses carrying visiting teams and other people that are associated with the event come and go. Food trucks bringing, that are vendors that are bringing to unload food and drinks for the games, as well as other types of vendors. It's just a very high traffic area for those events that will continue to operate in that lower level. The ventilation, because of that traffic, the ventilation on that lower level is very, very important. That's why we shift to the more open mesh screen as opposed to the perforated screen. Having that mesh screen will allow for proper ventilation. It will be much more energy efficient to allow for that openness, and once again, provide a safer environment for those that are in that lower level that will eventually be covered. We need that ventilation and the safety for the patrons and the people that will be coming and going in that back area. The expanded curb cut along 400 West, our goal is to clear out the parking garage as quickly as possible post-event. It was mentioned we've done a lot of traffic studies. Along with our traffic studies, included a study of how quickly we can clear out that parking garage. With the current design that we have in place, we estimate we can get that garage emptied out in 30 minutes. Keep in mind, the vast majority, I hesitate to put a percentage on it because I'm putting it on without, 90% of the egress of that parking garage will take place after 9:30 p.m. After a game or a concert or another event. The egress of that lot when it's full, the garage when it's full, will not be taking place during business hours or other highly populated hours of downtown Salt Lake. I think it was also mentioned there is very little current traffic even on 400 West. So having that exception so that we can get the garage emptied in about 30 minutes is actually a safer process because we're minimizing the timeline of cars getting out of there and it becoming a completely free zone. We, as mentioned, we've already worked with Salt Lake City's transportation. We continue to be very committed to work with Salt Lake City's transportation to efficiently provide traffic flow that allows safe and quick and efficient traffic. And we're confident that we have a plan with the Transportation Committee to put that in place. The third point, the structure itself falls below the required height for a parking structure, but we became aware that we have the top floor that is open to the elements of snow and other weather, and we realized we need to put a canopy structure. The canopy structure takes us above the allowed height limit, but it is a canopy structure, not part of the base of the parking structure itself, but once again will provide safety and a better environment for those that are parking on the top level of the garage, once again with most of our events and games taking place during the winter months. So really quickly, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We have received the staff recommendations, and I just want to address them, and then obviously we'll open ourselves up for any questions. But comment number one, additional visual interests be incorporated along the retaining walls at the base of the structure's street-facing facades and identified in the plan set prior to the adoption of the development agreement. We're committed to work with Salt Lake City to enhance the pedestrian experience along 400 West and 100 South. We've worked with landscapers, as you've already seen, to increase the greenery along that area to make sure that'll just help with the look and feel and help with heat deflection. And we will work on the master plan as we get further into the master plan, working with art activations that align with the broader district that will be designed in the sports entertainment culture district as a whole. So very committed to continue to work, but feel like we have a very strong plan for the initial phase. Number two, the applicant replaced the proposed woven wire mesh screening material on the street facing facades of the loading area with screening material similar to or consistent with the perforated aluminum panels proposed upper levels of the structure prior to adoption of the development agreement. As mentioned, we have gone with the more open, Addie, this is the proposed more open mesh, and I gotta move this, I keep knocking it, I apologize. This is the more...
That's 10 minutes, but go ahead and finish your presentation.
This is the more open wire that we're proposing. This is the perforated of the upper level, and we just, as mentioned, much better ventilation and so forth. I'm going to be done in 90 seconds, I promise. The applicant includes bicycle parking on the property. Done. We actually have had bicycle parking there. When I was driving over, I remembered we've actually had that over the years. It's been eliminated probably because of lack of use, but we welcome it, we want it, and we will provide bicycle parking. And then final details regarding site plan requirements to be provided in the plan set prior to adoption. Absolutely, we will provide the most up-to-date site plan documents prior to the adoption of the development agreement. Thanks for letting me go over. I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now it's time the commission can ask clarifying questions if you have some. I have a question for staff, if you can reclaim a microphone. So will you explain to me what it means to have a max drive approach? What's the difference between 30 and 43 feet? Like what on that drawing? Can you show me what that?
So, I mean, literally it's the 13 feet, right? It's just, so normally that drive approach is measured at the sidewalk level and not necessarily where it kind of, like the apron that comes out to the curb.
It's the width of the curb cut?
Yes.
It's how big the
So basically
lane come out.
what it's saying, with this wider one, they can have 2 lanes of traffic exit at the same time rather than 1 lane of traffic. That's in their traffic management plan. And so obviously that would involve having Salt Lake City Police there as well to help, which they're already there after every game, to help direct traffic out.
And did you say that transportation expressed an opinion about that?
They did. They said they're fine with this current design.
All right.
We do have the transportation director here if you have specific transportation questions.
That was the answer to me. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
do.
Or
I just
do.
had a clarification, just so I understand it correctly. Everything on the service side where the players are coming and going from the south side, that stays the same. You're diving down. So all of the patrons are coming in from the west?
400
They're
west.
coming in, everybody up, everybody down at the end of the game. That's how it's working. Did I understand that
Go ahead,
correctly?
Nick.
So yes, the patrons will drive their vehicles up Fourth West, pull into Fourth West closest to the northwest stair. It's at grade level, and then it will incline up basically to the same level as the plaza level, which is the main concourse, which is level 3, which we're considering level 1, and we have to have it to be that certain height because to allow for the trucks and the buses to get down. So we have a steel truss that spans across, so we have a certain height limitation that we have to make, so all those buses can come in, trucks can come in. So the first level of the garage is essentially at the same elevation of the actual main concourse arena.
That's good, that makes sense.
I have another question for staff. You said that you prefer the perforated screen instead of the mesh for safety of. What is your preference? Is it a design? Is it an aesthetic preference? Is it safety? What is it?
I think that certainly part of it is aesthetic, but also with trying to use the screening, we're trying to screen like truck lights and vehicle lights and those things that are happening below. I mean, we do have a hotel across the street, and so I think we just had some concerns that mesh would not be sufficient to screen lights and sounds and noises, that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
So I have some clarifying questions. The proposed site plan, I think, was compressed as a PDF, and so when I zoom in, it's illegible. So I can't the details. So I want to clarify. So we have a retaining wall that's 5 to 7 feet, right? We have a setback to the garage 4 feet from the sidewalk. Is the retaining wall, it says in the staff report, adjacent. Is it on the property line, or is that also set back somewhat?
You can articulate.
So the retaining, the landscape retaining wall is set back into the arena property line. So
Into the 4 feet. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding of, is the structure 4 feet from the sidewalk, and then the retaining wall takes up that 4 feet?
So the retaining wall we're placing back where it originally was, that was there a year ago.
Yeah.
And the structure itself is 4 feet beyond that, within the property line where the columns are starting to go.
So because I can't tell on this,
Yeah,
is the retaining wall adjacent to the sidewalk?
So
Or is there a little bit of a buffer, a setback?
There is a setback. So
Okay.
we're placing back how it was.
Okay, and then this ground floor bit is 35 feet in height? Is that what I read correctly?
So yes, from the loading dock, at the basement of the loading dock, up to the plaza level is approximately 35 feet.
So I have a 5 to 7 foot tall retaining wall from if I'm standing on the sidewalk, and then a little less than 4 feet at that point behind it, a 35-foot opening, and then the beginning of the actual parking garage where it's meshed.
No.
No.
I'm going to zoom
Where the
in.
arrow is, that's what's covered with the mesh, where it almost looks like there's no covering there.
Right.
It's just showing that it's more open for that airflow and ventilation.
Okay, but that part is 35 feet.
It differs. So at this, so the loading dock, you go down, and then that's the highest point is at this corner. You go closer to the arena, it slopes down. At the lowest point near the plaza level of basically the face of the arena, from that point up, that's about 35 feet. Further back, it's about 10, 15 feet because it slopes down.
I understand that now.
Yeah.
I had a question and it just went out my head, so I may come back or it may not. If it doesn't, then it wasn't important, but we can move
Can
on.
I add one thing about the mesh?
Excuse me, this is Bruce Beard. I'm the lawyer, but I remember what the engineer just said. There are code issues because of the diesels and the other things that are being running in that loading area down below. And also, there's code issues with ventilation. And also, if you put the wire mesh on there with the volume of air handling that would be necessary to move through that perforation, it would create a noise impact that would be fairly significant according to our engineer on that. Am I correct on that? Correct. Here's Saeed. Saeed, you need the mic.
There are some like strong exhaust fans installed at the face of the building, that those can create like a suction on the airflow for the ventilation of the smoke from the where they like TV trucks are idling. So if we go with those aluminum perforated metal, it create some whistling noise that needs some study to make sure that's not happening.
We have whistling buildings in Salt Lake City already.
Can we get the engineers?
Love it, hate it, love, hate.
Can you please state your name for the
Thank
record?
you.
Saeed?
Oh, here, I can. That's all the names.
Yeah, my name is Saeed Bunyadi. I'm with Walter P. Moore, the architect of record and engineering of this project.
Thank you.
All right, I have a couple of questions, probably several questions. Nothing bad though. First question: are you all changing the color of the stadium, or was something happening here? Is this parking garage a completely different color?
Yeah. You know, sometimes renderings are a little tough. We know we're not changing it. That's just, the facade, that we will have the two different colors. We thought the mountainscape with the darker on top created a great visual, but no, not changing the color of the building.
Okay. And this stall has, this parking garage has a little under 500 spots. So this is not for the general public entering the stadium.
The parking for this garage will be included in ticket packages. People who have certain types of ticket packages. Yes, that is accurate.
All right.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify that. I've always lived within walking distance of this, and I've seen this about 1,000 times. And not to overstep, I am inclined to back away from some of the things here because this street is the backside of the stadium, coming out the stadium, coming south along 400 South, can get pretty dark even with the trees. And so I know it's in the best interest of the team and everyone involved and transportation to have a safer street. But I think that what I'm wary of here is that we put too many requirements on you all and it doesn't become what it needs to be in order to protect people, right? And that's what I'm concerned about for the site overall. But another question here. Also, I want to point out, along this backside street in 100 South, it's usually massive trucks parked there. If it's a game or if it's a concert, that street is usually a loading dock of a street, not really used as a street in that way, and it's always something there. And so the alternative versus the garage, I think, is as many 12 semi-trucks parked there, which is kind of cool to see what band is playing and what's happening there, but it's not really functional, right? And I think that with the investment happening around the stadium, the suffering part is that there's a lot of operation happening in that stadium and you don't have a working backyard, right? And I think that's what's one of the problems here. So it's not it's like four-sided building downtown. They need a back lot to kind of hide some things. So that's what I'm thinking here. And having seen, a couple dozen stadiums and luxury suites across the country, I think we should be more lenient on this one overall.
I guess I would jump onto that and out of curiosity.
Sorry, do you mind if this is a discussion between the commission, then maybe we. So is this a conversation between us, or is this an
No, this is a question. Would this project actually add any more loading bay space? Because my understanding is that the loading bay is that subterranean level. There's no additional space to park out trucks for visiting bands or anything. So we may still have to park, or you may still have to park various things on the street. That's not going to reduce that.
That's correct. No, it's not changing back to the previous question, it's not changing any of the loading base area. What it does do, though, is by creating at least a covering, it gives us some new opportunity to, there will be some buses and trucks that we'll be able to keep down there that in some cases we maybe would not have because it is covered. But it's not a given. It'll be on a case-by-case basis. But the loading area is not changing that space.
Okay. How far below the ground is the loading area? Is that the 4 feet, or is that
15?
15.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the podium that you already are permitted to build, is that just bringing up to a covering of the ground level, or is that the 35 feet above?
That's the 35 feet.
Okay, so it's 15 plus 35, and that's just entirely open space for loading. There's not like 2 levels there.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
It is like a double high space.
Yeah.
Like, it's really high. It's
Yes.
like, when you go walk up into the Delta Center, you walk up the stairs up to level 3, it's basically going to be at that same elevation. And then loading dock does drop below, so it does feel like it is like a double high space.
Okay. And there would be nothing on top of that podium beyond the main parking structure?
Correct.
That's correct. It'll be covered. There will be that triangle that sticks out, it is covered. It's not open.
Of course.
But nothing built on the surface of that.
But that platform will continue back, and behind the triangle, it will become a surface for parking.
Yes, that would be level 1.
That's
Level one.
Level one.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Interesting. Thank you. Okay. So, and that's already been permitted. So you are already building that, correct?
The footings, go ahead.
Yes, the footings are installed, and the steel is soon to start.
Steel is soon to start.
Get up to that podium level.
Up to the 35-foot podium level.
Yes.
Okay. So that's my first question. A little bit of a compound question. Second question. Have you been in communication with UTA with regard to the rail infrastructure and the right-of-way in this area?
Yeah, so we reached out to UDOT because, did the right-of-way UDOT study that has to be done and have sent everything, and know that their feedback is contingent for the approval of the development agreement. So that is underway.
Okay, so there are. I did see in the notes that there was that reach out to UDOT, and UDOT is obviously responsible for sort of roadway rail interactions, but UTA is responsible for railway operations, so that area right there at South Temple and 400 West, it's Delta interlocking. There's a train coming through there every about 4 minutes, and when a train comes through there is no right turn. So in the traffic plan, how do you expect, I don't want to seem too hostile, but this is concerning to me. As cars come out, they're going to flow onto that street, and then they are going to hold at the light. And basically it is going to be a log jam, and there are going to be, like, every 2 minutes, that light will have to turn so that trains can come through Delta interlocking, and then a small number of cars will be permitted through, and then you'll have to wait. And that's the only way to get out, because you cannot cross and turn south onto 400 West. So I wonder how you envision the exit operation actually functioning in the context of a highly active rail
So
corridor.
for all of our events, we actually coordinate with SLPD to come down to help with traffic management.
Yeah.
And they can control the lights. And so by working with SLPD, we can keep those lights green longer for exit. So, and I just want to make sure I clarify one thing, make sure I understood you right. We already closed down South Temple, so no one can turn right anyway there, and we would continue that. So it's straight north on 400 West. There is the light there. We, once again, already have SLPD working at all of our events to help with traffic flow to get it out as quickly as possible, and we would continue that.
But
so it's not just waiting for the green light, is what I'm for the traditional light changing.
Correct, and I understand that. But ultimately, this would be loading a significant amount of new cars onto 400 West. Is that correct? Because right now, the only parking lot exit on that one segment of 400 West would be for VIPs and the loading bay, correct?
It would be loading more cars on 400 West, yes. Okay. And that's why we're working very closely with Transportation, SLPD, UDOT to make sure we have a great, safe plan for everybody.
Commissioner, if I may add, we specifically anticipated that question, and we had our traffic engineer specifically look at that question, and our traffic engineer is convinced that with appropriate coordination with SLCPD and with UTA, that we can unload the structure in the short time we're talking about with the 2 lanes. And that's part of the reasons to have the 2 lanes, is because it allows us to double stack northbound as opposed to single stack northbound. If we only had 1 lane, we could only single stack northbound. With 2 lanes, we can double stack northbound.
Thank you for clarifying.
Go back from a question about the parking again. Where does most of the parking happen now? I know it's off-site, but do you have an idea of where most people
park? Where they're parking now? Yes. So as mentioned, our main lot is Block 85 Northwest. It's the surface lot owned by the LDS Church. We get about 1,100 stalls there on an event night. Then directly due east across 300 West at the Salt Palace Convention parking, we get about 400 parking stalls there per night, which we know is now going to be going away with the development of the entertainment district. South of us is the Marriott Hotel. We lease parking out from them. I don't want to give a number because I don't know, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's minimal. And then north of us, we also, we do some parking with the Triad. Once again, a minimal number. And then west of us, we do some leased parking in Gateway. And once again, don't remember that number either. But so those are the.
And Gateway's parking lets out on 400 West going south.
That's correct. Yeah. And very similar, police are out there to direct the 2. We do 2 lanes exiting out. They take 2 lanes and head south. And we actually have SLPD all the way down to 500 South getting people to the freeway.
So this is amenity parking for packages, season ticket holders, stuff like that. That's what will be in this new building?
Yes.
Which is it, do you have 500 spaces around the city right now for kind of that amenities parking? And this replaces
well,
that?
400 at the Salt Palace Convention Center parking that we're losing. That's where a lot of these people do park.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions before we start a discussion?
Yeah, the only clarifying question I had for you, so just want to make sure I am right on this. The actual seating capacity of the arena, though, is not changing. That's maintaining at what it has been, right?
It's in just due to the configuration of the new design. We're going to increase a little bit for the Jazz, 500-600 seats. So we'll go about 500 or 600 seats for Jazz games. And this past season, we had 11,000 seats that could see the full sheet of ice for hockey, but we sold 16,000 tickets for most games that we called single goal view. People actually buying tickets that couldn't see one end, just because that's the work we need to do, the renovation, and make it so all almost 17,000 seats for hockey. So maybe a little bit longer of an answer. The capacities are staying very similar, give or about a couple hundred increase.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't receive permission for this, what would be next steps? Are you permitted to build a smaller parking structure? Obviously you would still build a podium because that's already in process. Would it just stay as the podium? And obviously we wouldn't be able to condition that on any particular improvements, or would there be some sort of altered parking structure that would have to be evaluated?
Yeah, our hope is that we would be able to work with you and you know, the other departments within Salt Lake City, transportation, everybody, to make sure we come up with a solution that works for everybody. The great thing about this is our interests are the same as yours. We care a great deal about what the arena looks like. We care a great deal about the experience that people have when they come and go and even just walk by the arena. We care a great deal about the safety of all of our patrons. Our security person reminds me every time we have an event, it's like we're moving a small city in and out of our venue, and we take great measures to make sure people are safe, to make sure that they're having a great experience, that it's clean, that they can get around where they need to. So our goals are the same as yours, and we're very excited to work with everyone to make sure we can provide a parking structure that works.
The only other thing I'll add is that we know construction isn't fun, and in the area, we have neighbors really close by. So driving the piles for the foundation was loud and noisy and shook. I think we got really close to triggering a seismic little thing at the gateway, but we've been trying to open communicate with all of our neighbors and let them know construction schedules when it might be a little noisier and people could work from home, and we just are open to doing that moving forward as construction continues on the Delta Center, but then also know that the broader district will be disruptive, and we want to be as good of neighbors as we can as this moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions right now? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing for this item.
Thank you.
If anyone wishes to speak on this item, you can approach the podium and state your name, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Fleischman. I am the minister of the Japanese Church of Christ, right next door to the Delta Center. We had the privilege of going to see the Delta Center today, so we thank you, and also acknowledge and appreciate the communication that you've given us. We'd like to just make a public request here moving forward with this. Those pylons being driven really do impact all of us. Construction impacts all of us. We are an old church, 100 years old. We house 2 other congregations from the Tongan community and the Kachin community, and the construction all impacts our planning and our day-to-day. Our request in this is that as much as reasonably possible, we could get a schedule of the construction that's going on, because there's already a lot of planning, and we just request this in a very neighborly way, hoping for the best, and very appreciative of all that consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And I just want to recognize that comment and hope that you heard it and you'll do what you will with it.
We absolutely, Nick, you wouldn't believe the schedule this guy has on this project, and we will.
Our comments need to be into the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. You'll if you make a comment, it will need to be in a mic, but
it's not
understood.
comment time. So
yeah, so you'll
I got a thumbs
please
up.
say that again in a minute, please.
I got a thumbs up. Okay, now we're in executive session, which pretty much means just we can speak if we need to ask questions of the applicant, or if we want to ask questions of the staff or anything like that, we'll do that. But it's mostly just our conversation time now. So.
Commissioner, if I could just add one thing, I don't know that I mentioned.
Sure, yes, please.
We are making a recommendation to the City Council for this.
Right.
They would be the final decision maker.
Right, and we can recommend approval as outlined in the staff report. We can change the things that are suggested in the staff report. We can recommend denial to City Council, or we could table this until a later date, although that's the least useful option probably. So let's see what we can make for recommendation to the City Council.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. It sounds like people, should we make comments first? Discussion? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'd like
Let's
to
do
have
that.
discussion,
Come back to you,
please.
Leverett. Thank you. Thank you.
I have some serious concerns here. According to the Parking Reform Network, about 30% of downtown Salt Lake's surface area is already taken up by parking. Obviously, we're losing some of that with the Salt Palace Convention Center, but ultimately Block 86, is it? Sorry, Commissioner.
Block 85. 85.
Yeah, Block 85 is part of the Olympics bid package, which means it's going to be around at least till 2034. I would suggest that I think we as a commission and as a city should be moving away from creating increased amounts of parking. And frankly, there have been a lot of excellent reforms towards that end, made by staff, made by the commission, made by the council, and I think that approving this for the sort of the scale of parking that is being talked about here, I have concerns. Obviously, I think a structured parking is better than a surface parking lot, so I understand the value in that, and I appreciate the applicants bringing that up. But nevertheless, I think building that much parking in downtown is simply unnecessary. We have more parking than almost any other downtown in the country. Do we really need more? I guess I would also add, on top of that, I have substantial traffic concerns. Even with SLCPD controlling that light cycle, again, that works for traffic, right? Closing down South Temple works for traffic. You can just clear that as fast as you can. But ultimately, that interlocking is going to have, or currently has, train, like each route comes roughly every 7.5 minutes. There are 2 routes now. There will be 3 in the future with the Orange Line. And so you're talking about a really remarkable frequency of rail. And that frequency of rail is either going to have to be entirely disrupted by SLCPD, basically, throwing off the schedules for anybody who's riding the rail, or it's going to completely logjam that area. So I just don't think that the current traffic plan, given future plan developments, is really feasible. And I think that you put that together with the fact that this is just a really remarkable amount of parking in a downtown area. And I'm wondering, is this really the best use of the space, right? We have, I know there's a lot of legislative interest here. I'm sure I'm getting on somebody's radar simply by saying this, but ultimately, I do not think that it's appropriate for this commission to approve the kind of structure that we're talking about here with the kind of traffic management plan that we're talking about here in this area. And I hope that my fellow commissioners will consider voting against this proposal.
Commissioner, if I could just mention one thing. The parking garage is a permitted use. And if they designed that to meet all the design standards, they wouldn't be here today. And so the question on the table is not really whether they should have parking, it's whether or not we should amend those design standards to allow it to be built as it's currently proposed.
I appreciate that. Would there be fewer spaces in a design that was permitted per code?
I'm not an engineer, but if they had to put in those active ground spaces, it would have to take up some space. So I'm assuming that there would probably be some sort of loss if they could actually go taller than this as well if they wanted to. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And on that, is parking allowed, but is purely commercial parking without, is that an allowed use in that space? Because I didn't believe it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure commercial parking lot is a permitted use.
It is, because this is parking for the use on the same site. It's considered accessory to the principal use, which is the arena.
Okay, gotcha.
That you couldn't just build a parking lot that anyone could park at any time to go to the mall.
If you build any sort of parking that is basically for someone would come and pay to use it, that's not just for that site, it's considered a commercial parking lot. Commercial parking lots are allowed. They would just have to go through, I think in this zone, it requires a conditional use. So
Thank you.
then it would still be permitted, provided there weren't any sort of detrimental impacts that couldn't be mitigated.
Okay, so when the kind of SEG, I forget what it's called, zone area kind of thing came through previously, one of the things that we discussed and I particularly was worried about is the fact that then we would get parking structures would pop up all along here because they're kind of terrible for the street, for the street life, for the actual experience of people down there. And I think, as you said, that wasn't something that became part of that zoning, so it did go through that's a possible use. But I think that my fear is that this is the exact kind of thing that will kill this area rather than energize it. I agree that we don't need more parking downtown, and I think a lot of the way that the kind of code is set up is to try and transition us away from parking, and so we do things like we aren't allowed to have sloped ramps that are out on public streets, which this does, which means that it can't be changed into some other use later on. It's purely for parking, and I don't know. I also don't think that this is a great use of the space there. So
my main concern is about the active ground floor use, and I understand that the reason why ground floor use is difficult is because the ground where there would be ground floor use is just a big hole. So they would need to create support structures to make that happen. And I guess my kind of curiosity is how, so if we have this 8-foot buffer zone right now, and then we have a few feet deep into the space, that seems like you're getting into a space where there could be ground floor use. And so if parking is allowed, an allowable use in the space, I feel like the conversation really revolves around, do we allow them to disregard the ground floor use requirement or not? They likely can build parking either way. So what is our relationship to that question? And then I also have frustrations with parking, but if that's not within our purview, I guess, does any other commissioner have any kind of thoughts around ground floor use? And also a kind of clarifying question is, we've talked about this 4 feet to this cement wall, and then there's 4 feet behind the cement wall to the building structure. And so does that whole space, is that the 8 feet setback? Because in the staff report, it mentions how there is a 8-foot landscape buffer. So if there is a 4-foot buffer behind a cement wall that no one can see, then that's not a buffer. So I guess, do you know the answer to the question of the landscape buffer?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is correct. I mean, that 4 feet, obviously you're not going to see anything going from the ground. If somebody planted a tree, of course you would see that. But yes, it wouldn't truly act as a complete buffer because there is a separation between the building and the wall.
Okay. Well, my opinion on that is that I think we need more from them than just putting the cement wall back in the exact same place without providing any extra visual interest on the ground floor, especially with this kind of if they're trying to create visual interest with a landscape buffer. I don't think they are succeeding at that. So those are my kind of comments for the moment. I am curious what transportation has to say about this, and if they feel this parking lot would create a substantial increased incentive for people not to take public transit or to not bike or anything like that. Am I allowed to ask transportation to
Yeah, they're city staff.
answer
so you
that?
can-
All right.
You can ask any questions you want.
So you want me to
So I
speak to
guess-
the concern about inducing more vehicular travel in the
Right.
downtown?
I guess let me create a
Will you
little more.
introduce yourself for the
Oh, hi.
TV
I'm John Larson. I'm
audience
the
and
director of
everything?
the Transportation Division here for Salt Lake City.
I guess currently the pinch point in this area is there is traffic during games. There is traffic, and finding parking is a pain. So I have seen people intentionally decide not to park or not try to drive during a game because because it's so chaotic. So does this make that problem substantially worse, or is it just like, does that encourage people to drive more substantially, or is it such a minimal number that it doesn't really matter? Because it's 400 stalls. It's going to be chaos. So do you think this parking garage will encourage more driving in this area?
Yeah, I really don't think it will, because it's packaged with. I think a big part of it is who the clientele are. It's probably, I think it's giving a better experience to people that are likely going to drive anyway. And then, I guess more broadly speaking, the structured parking, I think it's a more efficient use of space than surface parking. And so I think long term it does provide that. It could make it easier to eliminate surface parking downtown.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Thanks so much.
I'm ready to make a motion.
More comments, thanks. Go ahead.
I just have some comments, and we'll base it on just personal experience. When I lived in the suburbs, when my children were younger and were avid sports fans and into all of the other activities that happen, we would drive in, and I would suspect that the demographics of who uses this facility, there's a large percentage of people that drive in from the suburbs. Now that we moved to Salt Lake, there's an opportunity to trax in, and we've done that. We've also Ubered because we were closer. So my comments are, and not to be argumentative with my fellow commissioners, there's a need, and this satisfies that need, and it follows all of the requirements from the city that we have. As our city matures, if parking, and I think it will over the course of time, as the need for parking in the downtown setting changes over the course of time, then I think this facility, this structure will change over the course of time as needed. But as it is right now, I think there's a need, and I think this satisfies not only what happens on the existing dock area right now, with all of the comings and goings that happen on a daily basis, but there's also the fan patron kinds of experience that happens at other arenas around the country. So I see this as a benefit. I understand and appreciate many of the comments that have been made, the street activation, but I think quite frankly with everything that's happening with the hotels to the west and what's coming to the east, this area is alive again, where this was really the back door, and I think it's changing a little bit from that.
One quick thing in response to that, I think the fact that it is a helical PO ramp means that it can't really
adjust with the times, that would have to get torn down and something else would go there.
I don't disagree with that, but I understand, a good structural engineer would be able to use the vertical pieces and rebuild in place. And I think over the course of time, cities evolve, and there's a need now, and I think this satisfies that need. Sometime in the future, and I don't think it's going to be in the too distant future, there's going to be different needs that this could satisfy.
So
Right.
I want to.
Go ahead.
I have one more. Do you have a comment?
I have comments, yes.
Go ahead.
All right. So, as a frequent patron of the stadium and a neighbor to the stadium, I think this is an added benefit. Directly south of here is, it might be a UTA power station, which has all the charm of a mid-level security prison. It's just wrought iron fences and bricks, and it's a substation. You can look through it, and it's not the nicest place to walk, the nicest place to be, and that's not going anywhere. The opposite side of the street is Gateway. Gateway Mall is where, if I had to drive, or I was with someone, a guest at the stadium, they had to drive where they would normally park at. That is a mess to get in and out of for the stadium, and all the exits go on 4 in the south, and they go south. This doesn't change the amount of people coming to the stadium in that way. This doesn't increase traffic. It doesn't change that. It just puts traffic and people who are paying thousands of dollars to go to the game much, much closer. It gives them a better experience. There are a lot of absurdities in modern professional sports. I won't go into any of those. But if you're going to do it, don't halfway do it. And this stadium needs parking on site as an amenity, as a feature. Even visually, it looks kind of funny to have nothing there. And I would say, given that you're driving more, giving more fans coming to the stadium, you might alleviate parking because they'll know where I'm going now instead of driving around looking for parking. Either I have a spot at the stadium or I don't. But you can drive around the stadium or get lost here looking for a place to park because you think there should be parking there. They're all little anecdotes I could drop around this, around the stadium, around the parking, but it just makes sense. If I make a motion, it would be to take staff recommendation and to remove the mesh requirement because, again, that's a stadium design piece, and they can build a garage if they want to, and it can, we're talking, I would say prime, October to April, 100,000 people a week coming into the stadium. They're in the interest of making it safe and accessible and making sure everyone's needs are met around there. This isn't a one-off mall or office building or even a residential building where, we'll have rentals come and go. This is stadium and a major centerpiece. And I think we should give more leeway, respect the staff at every level on both sides to sort of monitor this and have it go forward. And I think, this is not in our court to sort of put micro sort of pieces on this at all.
My thought is that this parking structure will have an effect on the people that are around it, that either live around it or are walking around it to go to the mall or whatever. And this parking structure will definitely make the experience for season ticket holders better because they don't like that they have a crazy parking space clear over here or there aren't enough or whatever it is. So that will definitely make their experience better. And if they open up parking spaces that now are not used and so people who don't have season tickets can come and park there, then that maybe that makes their experience better as well. But a really big building that kind of kills that corner has an effect on everybody, people who aren't going to the game, people who aren't season ticket holders. So I also think, though, that corner already is not great, right? There's already nothing there. Like, we walked around the huge block and, you kind of look to see if you can see any, roadies, throw me a ticket. And that doesn't happen because it's too big anyway, but there's already nothing there. But this is an accommodation, and I'm not sure that it makes the experience of just being in Salt Lake or going to 1 or 2 games or going to a concert better, but it certainly makes the experience better for people who have season tickets to the 2 sports teams that are there. I also think, in my estimation, the kind of the experts are the staff of the planning department, and if they suggest that this this kind of screening is not sufficient for this location, and if all of the other buildings in town have worked out a way to have a different kind of screening that does match the rules, the regular rules, then I say, let's make that, I would be in favor of supporting that recommendation. And then, when it gets to city council, they have a million other considerations. They have legislative considerations, and they've got political considerations and all of that kind of stuff. And but our consideration kind of like is how is the city designed and what does it look like? And when you're walking around the streets of the Delta Center, is it nice or is it terrible? Do you get poked in the eye with a semi, high beams or something like that? So I would be more in favor of supporting the recommended conditions for this. And then ultimately, the city council, a million things could change between now and the ultimate decision there, and that will be what it is. But I think from what I'm considering, the considerations are kind of the least we could do give to the city council.
I mean, I think we are in a position to deny this motion and ask the applicant to go back to the drawing board and consider how they can do ground floor uses, right? And well, ultimately, in the long run, right, I'm here because I want to help make this city the place it can be, and I think we need to have that vision. There are rules in the code, and there are things that are permitted just under existing law. And at the bare minimum, right, like if we can't actually make this the city, if we can't, tomorrow make this a city that has no parking at all, which as much as I would love to see, that's not where we're at. At the very least, we can ask that the existing provisions that we already have in place are adhered to. And so for that reason, in the matter of PLN PCM 2025-00619, based on the information presented and discussion, I move that the Commission recommends that the City Council deny this request for the following reasons. It is necessary to maintain the existing standards for ground floor use. There are ongoing concerns about traffic management, and it is desired that the applicant reevaluate some of the decisions that they have made surrounding this particular design.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Rosenfield. Does anyone want to second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion from...
Point of discussion. Your motion counter to staff's recommendation does need to be tied to specific standards. We may need to stand down where you look through the standards too. You gave reasons, but if those reasons are not specifically stated out in the standards, it's
my understanding
invalid.
is that this is a legislative action, and as such, we don't have the same requirements to tie it to specific standards. Is that correct?
There's factors to be considered. So ideally, the motion and subsequent whatever planning commission recommendation comes out of it should be linked to those factors.
So we may just need a moment for Commissioner Rosenfield to look through that.
They don't all need to be satisfied, because the code says that you can consider these factors and weigh them appropriately as you see fit.
Is there a place in the report that we can look for those specific factors? Are they the considerations, or?
No,
I think it's
If you'll point us
I think
to-
it's attachment D and E. I can also pull up what the standards were on my presentation.
Section E?
There, yeah, attachment E.
Okay, so we're gonna take a pause on the motion. The motion is on hold for right now, so we can clarify it. Can I do that?
You have a motion and a second.
Can I put it on hold while we seek further
I
clarification?
think that the right way to
Would
do
I
it-
be able to, because I made the motion, could I?
I think at this point, the person who makes the motion can rescind it and replace it with a different motion.
Okay, I rescind the motion pending Identification of specific standards.
Thank you.
Okay, while the motion is pending, I would like to just discuss how to increase the pedestrian experience if this goes through. So currently, with the cinder block wall that was there a year ago, the pedestrian experience is fairly monotonous until you break past halfway of the building. So if we were to request a larger landscape buffer, so the cinder block wall splits is further away from the current space, then we would allow more landscaping in front of the building, and then we would be able to have trees and a better pedestrian experience, which would support staff's request that there is some kind of visual interest component done with the cinder block wall. So I guess but then I also heard, I also vaguely remember that the cinder block wall has become a structural component for the building, or is it just a cinder block wall to guard to fence off the structure from being seen?
From what I recall, I know the one along Fourth West is actually a part of the ramp. It will help to keep that. I think as we go on to First South, it is more just keeping people out more than it is structural.
Okay.
Just point of clarity here. I don't know that we can determine what's a better pedestrian experience on the outside of a garage of a building that houses 20,000 people for an athletic event. It's a very particular place to walk and to be, and particular reason you need to be on that side of the street. As I was saying earlier in my comments, the trees sometimes make it more difficult when there are 100 people trying to cross the street and get across there, or there's no lighting, or the trees block the lighting at night when you're leaving, because most people are leaving the stadium after 9 or 10 o'clock at night, right? So I think that what's a better experience, we can't predetermine here, and most of the things we use to apply to other pieces of zoning and design doesn't apply here because of it's a parkway, it's a gathering place, it's a place of egress. It's designing a tunnel to leave out of the stadium, even though it's not a tunnel itself. It's a sidewalk or street, right? So I think as someone who's walked the street as a pedestrian, I wouldn't say trees would make it safer at all. It was up to me, and I've escorted people I didn't know, strangers, down that street because after leaving the stadium, they didn't feel safe going south with the trees there, right? Because it's dark, and because it blocks the lighting and you can't see anything, and because it's the middle of the night, right?
Sure, and I guess that's the thing that I'm trying to ask for, is something that will help that person. So we can ask for more lighting. We can say, we help us improve the pedestrian experience along here. Great, build your beautiful parking garage, spend a little bit on helping the pedestrian experience, not just during the event, but during all time, whether it's in the middle of the day or after the event when somebody might be scared to walk south because of the trees. So I agree. I am now kind of pulled over onto the side of okay, this seems, especially after talking to transportation, it seems like, okay, this is an asset to our city. I think that's great. But how can we make it more of an asset to kind of flush out those little corners?
Exactly. I agree with you. I'm going to say with the design of the wall being there, sometimes that's safer to keep people from the garage or whatever danger could be there, right? If it's a retaining wall there, it's not, this is a bad structure, but it's, hey, there's a slope and grade there. You probably shouldn't be up there. And I want to also deter you from climbing there. I want to deter you from riding a skateboard up there. I don't want people jumping down from there, right?
Sure.
All of those things sort of matter in that design and space. But I think we're like nitpicking here, and it doesn't feel right to sort of design that from that standpoint, having seen it and been there, right?
Yeah, I guess can the staff's contention of improving the pedestrian experience, can we give more guidance? And one way that we have done that in the past is with landscaping. And so if this is, if that kind of like, that portion of the wall next to the ramp is something that's integral to the building, let's not touch it. Let's recommend some other way. But the along 100 South, we could ask for more of a landscape buffer there, and it would improve the experience. Procedure, it sounds like they would like to speak. Do we?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Sorry.
Just going to agree with you, that's all.
Noted, thank you. So I guess I would recommend pushing that 100 South wall as close to the building as possible, and improving the lighting and the I want to say artistic integrity of the cement wall. I mean, it's in the staff report already, but so I guess the main thing is pushing that wall 100 South further away from the building, increasing the real landscape buffer. Instead of where now it says it's an 8-foot landscape buffer, it's really a 4-foot landscape buffer. So can we buy another 4 feet of real landscape buffer? And that would be my contention.
So that's something you can request, but I think we should see what Commissioner Rosenfield's
Have you found your
Yes, I
does
have
first.
found my motion. Sorry. Okay, let's see if this works. In the matter of PLN PCM 2025-00619, based on the information presented and discussion, I move that the Commission recommends that the City Council deny this request for the following reasons. It does not comply with the key considerations identified in the staff report. Consideration number 1, that the proposal does not help implement the city goals and policies identified in the adopted plan. Specifically, it diminishes infill and redevelopment of underutilized lands. It fails to create a complete circulation network and ensure convenient, equitable access to a variety of transportation options. It fails to create opportunities to connect with natures in urban areas. And it fails to support the economic growth of downtown. And with regard to consideration number 2, it fails goal number 1, to encourage mixed-use development and ground floor activation. Goal number 2, create pedestrian-oriented development along the street. Goal number 3, improving the urban design quality of downtown. Goal number 4, mitigating the impacts on adjacent properties. And goal number 5, increasing pedestrian access and wayfinding. It fails to address any of those goals, and for that reason, the request should be denied.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Rosenfield. I'm not going to repeat it. And a second by Commissioner Scott. Yeah. Do you want to make does anybody want to make an amendment, a substitute motion? I thought you might want to.
I mean, we'll see what happens.
You don't have
and
to.
then another motion might happen. We'll see.
Okay. All right, we're going to vote on that one. Okay. Commissioner Vela.
No.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett.
No.
Commissioner Krasik.
No.
Commissioner Barry.
No.
Commissioner Burrows also votes no. So that one didn't pass, so we can consider another motion.
I can make a motion. I'm going to make a motion here that, trusting everything, quite frankly, that the staff has done, addressing the four items that are included in the report, and I want to make a motion to recommend that based on the information presented in the discussion, I move that the commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to adopt the zoning amendment request as recommended by staff. And I would only then add to that the applicant work with the staff to create a larger landscape buffer as possible.
Thank you. That's a motion from Commissioner Vela, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Any second?
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Certainly.
Only after it's seconded.
Oh,
Only after the motion is seconded, would you make a friendly
I will
amendment?
second that motion. May I make a friendly amendment? Just that we have outlined that we add bike parking. I would just like to add the word substantial, that we add substantial bike parking, and what that means would be determined through the Transportation Division and by staff. In that, I feel like we could make one rack. I don't know this is going to be everything that I would like. I would like a couple of rows of substantial bike parking. Nick, you looked like you were going to say something. Is that not a clear enough directive?
Well, it was fine until you added this other part. So do you want to add a specific amount, or do you just want us to figure out what is an appropriate amount given the spaces available for that type of bike parking? I mean, you're making a recommendation, so the city council can choose what to do with it.
I guess just like, and it's partly up to you to just decide, like, not just add bike parking, but I would like there to be as much bike parking as possible given the kind of other elements at play in the design, and that would be partly determined by staff.
Okay. So if I understand it correctly, what you're doing is you're taking the 4 recommendations of the staff basically and trying to bolster those, but
Yes.
not really changing them.
Yep.
I would accept those modifications to the proposal, to the motion.
Okay, perfect.
I can't make a motion, so. We have a motion by Mike Vela and a second by Landon Krasik. Sorry to use your first names. I don't know why I did that. With an amendment. Is everyone clear on what we're voting on now? Okay.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify. So with regard to the recommendation that applicants work with staff to reduce or to increase the amount of setback, does that contain any, would that actually be part of the motion, and does that contain any specific instructions for how staff should proceed?
So ultimately, it's up to the council. So it's not necessarily you're asking them to work with staff. It's the council is going to make that decision. They will probably, if they want to accept it, they'll probably ask us what's appropriate, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Just adding to that, just to be really clear, there's really just 2 things that we're asking staff to bolster. The visual interest to incorporate along the retaining walls at the base of the structure. We've talked about that. You know, the woven mesh we've talked about, that's okay. The notion of bicycle parking, the applicant has said certainly to that. But I think the final thing then is final details regarding the site plan requirements be provided in the site plan, prior to the adoption of the development agreement. So I guess basically what I'm saying is I'm trusting staff to push those 2 items, the site requirements and what happens in terms of all of the good conversation we've had concerning the landscape buffering as much as possible.
Understood. Thank you.
We've got our motions. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that the motion is clear enough. Do you feel like it is?
We're pretty comfortable
Okay,
with it.
thank you. Okay, great. So now we're going to vote. Commissioner Rosenfield,
No.
Commissioner Leverett,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Nope.
Commissioner Vela.
Yes.
I will also vote yes. So that motion does pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 2 against. I want to thank the members of the public that came to speak today. They left, but I heard what they said, and I appreciate that, and I hope that you'll remember that too. And then also, I appreciate that the applicant showed up today and talked to us about what their concerns are and their point of view. I appreciate that. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I suggest that we take a brief break?
Yeah, let's take a break for 5 minutes. So come back at 7:40. More items. We're starting this meeting again, and we have Commissioner Christensen is with us. We have, the next item is a text amendment regarding fence heights for the M1 zoning district.
Good evening. You get a twofer tonight. I'm Diana. This is Jason. And my video is not working. There we go. Okay. So the request for this is a text amendment. Last year in September, the Planning Commission sent a positive approval to the City Council for a privately initiated petition. I think a few of you will remember this was the Delta application to allow fences in the front yard between the front lot line and the front yard setback line to be up to 6 feet in height in the M1, which is the light manufacturing zoning district, but only within the Salt Lake International Center. So this is west of the Salt Lake City International Airport. In October of last year, the City Council adopted the ordinance for that fence height increase. Now, coming back, the Planning Commission has initiated this text amendment to allow the same fence height in the front yards of all M1 and the newly created M1A zoning district citywide. So this is an aerial of the city jurisdiction. The circle in yellow is the Salt Lake International Center. This is where it currently has that 6-foot allowance on the front yard fence. And the brown circle at the top is where most of primarily the M1A zoning district is. That's the newly annexed property that was given the M1A, which is the North Point Light Industrial zoning. You can see that most of the rest of the M1 that we're talking about today is going to be west of I-15. There is a little bit that runs along the corridor of I-15, both on the east and the west side. Staff is recommending that you pass on a positive recommendation to the City Council. This is the current text. I'm showing in yellow. This is what we added last year. So last year we added the M1 zoned properties in Salt Lake International Center, as well as the M2 and the EI zoning districts would have up to 6 feet in height for fences in the front yard between the front property line and the front yard setback. This is the proposed text, and at this point, I'm going to tell you that a lot of what we're talking about today is going to, or right now, is going to run into what we're going to talk about later in the next item. The text amendments are kind of going to blend at some point. But right now, what we're looking at for this item is for you to consider that we would be changing the language from in the M1, take out zoned properties in the Salt Lake International Center, add M1A to that, so that those 4 districts would be given that allowance to go up to 6 feet in height. We're also changing the language a little bit on that, so it would read maybe up to 6 feet in height if located between the front lot line. This is to be consistent with the rest of our ordinance, and the front building line of the facade of the principal structure that contains the primary entrance. And again, we are recommending that you send a positive recommendation to the City Council regarding this proposal. We had a lot of people in the last couple weeks from the International Center call us and inquire what was going on, and they, gave us not necessarily a favor of it, but they want, they're all interested to see this happen. There was supposed to be a couple that would be here. They're not, but they may have left. So, but we've had no one in opposition.
Just a question.
Thanks.
It seems like to me
are you
that the
done?
operative term is.
Oh, I'm finished. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
The operative term is may. You're not requiring it to be 6 feet, but it could go up to 6 feet.
Up to 6 feet, correct. Yes.
Fair enough.
So this would just be consistent throughout the M1 and now adding the M1A. Yes.
Very good.
What was the E1, the third?
E1 is the extraction industries.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the, how do you call it? The quarry. The quarry, thank you. That's on the north part of Salt Lake.
Okay.
So that's the only zoning, I believe, that has EI in the city.
Okay. And then.
So here.
Oh,
You can see it here.
Gotcha. Is there a rigorous definition, and I know this will no longer matter, is there a rigorous definition of the International Center in the
There
code?
is. So in the ordinance that we did last year, we did define the boundaries of the International Center. So it is in our code.
Thank you. So this would affect a substantial chunk of the city, area-wise.
Substantial chunk, yes.
Would sightline regulations to make sure that driveways are safe still be in place?
Yes, correct. So the site distance, triangular or limitations would still be in effect. Anything, I think, above 30 inches, sorry, I don't have it in front of me, would have to maintain a lower level. So yes, it would still be in consideration.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, how much of an interface, how much of an interface is there between M1 districts and districts that have a substantial amount of residential anything? Or do we usually have a transition zone that's more commercial?
So we have a little bit. I noted that in the staff report. There is a little bit. I'm going to look at my manager, John, because he knows it right off where that is.
Do you mind while you're looking for that?
So where we have seen it is in kind of Glendale, Public Riviera along 7th West. Between that and I-15, there has definitely been some issues between industrial uses and single-family residential. But most of that zoning has changed with the MU consolidation. And so they're no longer M1, correct?
Thank you.
Do you mind if we open public comment really quick and then,
Hold on.
I'm asking you if you mind if we, I'll let you run the meeting.
Okay, does anybody have any more clarifying questions for staff right now? Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? You can approach the microphone. No, I don't see anyone, so I'm going to close the public hearing. So now we're in discussion.
Okay, thank you. I'm so
You're welcome.
sorry.
You're
I
welcome.
just want to talk, but feel. I guess my main question is about that same scenario of there being M1 zones that are adjacent to residential or mixed use. Is there? So this potential situation where along 700 West, that's all going to be converted to the MU districts, mixed, but are we going to run into similar problems in the future where there are residential neighborhoods that are adjacent to M1 district? Yeah.
beyond what is right now, like that John just mentioned.
Yeah. Like, is that that is not going to get changed by the MU
There's
consolidation?
a little bit on 20, just off of 21st 100 South, where actually I brought up plant development to you 2 months ago or a month ago. There is M1, and it now will abut MU11. But so the intensity is still going to be very compatible, and there will be buffers to that, landscaping buffers and fencing buffers anyway. So not offhand do I know other areas that will have that. That right off comes to mind just because I know that those two intensities are a little bit on the higher side. So
We also have required landscape buffers whenever those zones are next to a zone that allows residential uses. So they have a 15-foot wide landscape buffer that has to happen on either the light manufacturing or EI zone, it's bigger property.
Does that include if it's across the street?
It's abutting.
I guess just for other commissioners, I live quite near 700 West, and there is, if all of those buildings put up 6-foot tall fences, it would, and I ride my bike and walk in that area, if all of the, and so it's residential along one side of the street and on the west side of the street, and all M1 on the east side of the street. If all of those businesses put up 6-foot fences, it would decrease my quality of life and the quality of life of the people that live directly across the street from them. And so I'm wondering if we want to add an amendment that says, like, when abutting if we wanted to approve this, we could add an amendment that says, except when across the street from residential, it would remain 4 feet or something like that. Just in that creating half of the street as being a big fenced wall would make it less pleasant to walk. And I could try to put that in a more concrete terms with Plan Salt Lake if I wanted to. I mean, if we wanted to move that direction, but that's kind of my current feeling.
So can I add one thing to that? So we've noticed in our research of all of this fencing, especially in the Salt Lake International Center, most light manufacturing, they choose to do the open fence to where it's, it's the nicer looking fence because they kind of want eyes on the property. And we haven't come across too many properties in the M1 that have a solid fence. So I think that when you're looking at 4 foot to 6 foot with that, just the open fence, it isn't so closed in or so tall, so much taller. So I think they have been really good. We've been very fortunate to have that ability to have these fence types, I think, instead of just the closed in look, so that height doesn't show as much, but that's a consideration.
Yeah, and I think that seems quite reasonable, maybe like deep in the M1 zone. I know that Restaurant Depot has it's probably non-compliant, but it's a probably 10-foot fence, and it is right up against the sidewalk. And so unless we regulate it, I think there are some occasions where some businesses may be abutting a residential zone or across the street from a residential zone and have a fence for a reason, whatever they're determining. So, yeah, I'm open to your
I'm totally open to that. I just know that we've done, I happen to be one of the planners that picks up quite a few variances, and we do have a lot of variance requests that come in for this taller height for fences in the M1 particularly, because there's security problems or, theft or vandalism or whatnot. And so I think at this point it would be very difficult to restrict some M1, because that's what we're trying not to do. We're trying to be consistent because we've already allowed the International Center to go up to 6 feet. I think it would be hard to restrict,
Just those next to
just those.
residentials.
That's my input, and I know that, we'd probably have more come in for variance requests. Those have been denied, the ones that have come in, but I think that's going to be kind of a why do they get to do it and we don't get to do it type of thing, because we are trying to be consistent with this fencing ordinance.
I mean, could we obligate that fencing transparency at least?
That's what I was thinking, like the top 2 feet maybe need to be transparent. But then we have that letter from the public comment that says, I want to build a tall fence and then put 2 feet of barbed wire on the top of it, like you know what I mean? So that doesn't make that neighborhood better if the top 2 feet are now a bent out barbed wire.
And barbed wire is not allowed. So barbed wire is only allowed, permitted in the M2 and the EI. So it is not in the M1 at all. There is quite a bit that's not in compliance, but it is not allowed.
I do
It's
like
not
the
permitted.
idea of maybe like the top 2 feet, when you go from 4 feet to 6 feet and you're against a residential property, maybe those top 2 feet need to be see-through.
I was thinking the entire thing needs to be see-through if you're going to be facing a residential zone and you want to go all the way up to 6 feet, rather than just have that top 2 feet be transparent, just like the entire thing, to enforce that sort of what seems like a common de facto standard. At least when you're talking about the edge of the M1 zone. Do you think that would cause those variance problems given what you've described?
I'm going to look at my planning director on that one. Again, most of the properties that have fencing in the M1, I would really say that probably 80% have a high transparency. So I'm trying to think offhand if we've seen or if we've researched a property that had more enclosure, and one doesn't come off, at the top of my head right now, because I think most want the security of having the ability of people looking into their parking lots, into their, for the most part, into their property site, just because, there's not a lot of, I actually use that word or that quote in the staff report, eyes on the property. Like that's a very important thing, because these types of high intense properties are the target for theft and vandalism and, car thefts and everything. And so I think they actually prefer to have that transparency, but that is something that you can consider.
Just a few corrections. Barbed wire is allowed in all of our agricultural zones and M1 and M2. And razor wire is also allowed in M1, M2, and EI. There's specific requirements for that. In terms of whether a fence could be required to be have some transparency, the zoning code does. There are some land uses that are allowed in these zones that are required to have a solid fence to screen things. For example, outdoor recycling places are required to have a solid fence. They're not allowed to have an open see-through fence. So there could be some potential issues with that. I think if the commission is interested in addressing how fence height when properties are either across the street or adjacent to a zone that allows residential uses, you can recommend that the council include a provision that basically states that they stay at 4 feet in those situations. That's going to be a very small number of properties in the city.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say that I understand the value of the consistency with the 4+2. Like not wanting to create those like weird edge cases where you can only have a fence of 4 feet, whereas maybe, I understand those property owners might want to have a fence of 6 feet. I just would also want them to make sure that it's transparent. But then the problem is if there's required solid fences, that creates complexity.
Well, I think that we don't have to figure out the language and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could make the recommendation that we want, when city council considers this, please consider properties that are adjacent or across the street from residential.
I don't think that guidance is necessarily clear. And I would say we're down the path again where who knows what's more neighborly? If I'm across the street from a residential area or where residential areas are allowed, maybe the residents want a 6-foot fence. Maybe they want barbed wire to keep their kids out, to keep people around. Keep people out. Maybe, they want to increase the number of places where a solid brick fence is used rather than a gated fence, because gated fences look, a 4-foot gated fence versus a 6-foot brick fence. If I lived across the street from it, I would want the 6-foot brick fence, right? Because it's more aesthetically pleasing. If I live there and I'm looking at it, I don't want to see through it, see a parking lot or a factory, any of those things. So we're down that path where, maybe they should all have to go before a variance or something, or I don't really know, but it's.
I just know,
we can't prescribe to the T what's best in every scenario, in every business, in every case, right? We're just trying to generally, and that's what we're doing. We're generally describing what's available. And I think 4 to 6 feet is not that big of a deal if it's already a fence there in a way, or it's already a use there that you want to avoid.
Yeah, I guess I disagree. Like a 4-foot fence, you see it all the time, especially on the west side, where you have a fence in a front of a lot of my neighbors' yards, but it still feels like it's a pedestrian scale of it would, and it feels a little more neighborly scale versus boom, this is a fortress and you better stay out.
It depends on what's on the other side of that fence, right? A neighbor's yard is different from a factory.
The restaurant depot versus the bakery that's a few doors down feels quite different, and the main difference is the fence. The setback is a little larger on the restaurant depot, but the kind of difference there of telling the people who live there, this is we're scared of you, and this is we want to make sure you stay out, is not something that I think most people enjoy. But again, you're saying, well, do we know the data? And I think there is definitely published data about fences out there, and if we wanted to send this back to get more data about the way that pedestrians feel next to 6-foot fences versus 4-foot fences.
Or transparent versus non-transparent.
Exactly. We could ask for the staff to gather that data. But I think that I think that it's such a niche case where I just happen to have experience with this exact thing, and it's probably going to be completely changed and irrelevant when it becomes MU. But I just want to say, the thing that I am experiencing, I don't want others in the future to run up against the same discomfort. And maybe it's irrelevant because all of the M1 will become, in these kind of scenarios, will become MU, and it will never be experienced again in Salt Lake. But if it is, I would like those people to be provided for. And so we can either send it back, get some more research about the comfortability, but that feels a little bit redundant if it's not going to matter.
Right.
But I do still want to create a provision for neighborhoods like mine. If there's anyone that would like to discuss it, I would make a motion if we're.
You ready?
Do it.
Let me find it. Sorry to push back so hard on here.
I think we're in a good place.
Okay, so, there's not a number associated with this.
You
can
don't,
just
you
do
know,
the
we know
title.
which number you're talking
Titles.
about.
Okay, sounds good. So this is regarding the 6-foot fence front yard setback in the M1 and M1A zoning district citywide. I recommend that we approve the motion as recommended by staff based on the information provided in discussion. I move the commission forward a recommendation to adopt the text amendment to the city council with the amendment that the areas that are M1 abutting across the street or adjacent to a residential or mixed-use zone have a 4-foot fence.
Is that clear?
Well, I'm just, okay, he's fine. Good.
I'll second that.
I would have a friendly amendment that you reword from abutting a residential or a mixed-use zone to stating any zone that allows a residential use.
I accept the amendment.
Yeah.
Abutting or across the street?
Abutting or across the street from any zone that allows a residential use.
Thank you. Is that clear? Has everyone got it?
Just a clarification then, if indeed it's not abutting or adjacent to residential, the amendment as it stands, that it may be at up to 6 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the motion. Okay.
Point of clarity here. If a 4-foot fence is allowed at M1 across from a residential area, then that means I can have barbed wire at an M1, which is eye level with a toddler? Is that what we're saying?
That is
Yes.
good.
No, that's not what we're saying. Barbed wire has very specific regulations of height, of how high the barb has to be above it. If you're limiting a fence height in a front yard to 4 feet, they couldn't meet that. They couldn't have barbed wire.
Okay, all right, just,
Thank you.
it was a loop there. It was.
Are we clear now? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Krasik and a second by Commissioner Christensen? Yes. Okay. Let's vote. I'm just going to go around the room. Commissioner Vela,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott,
Nope.
Commissioner Barry,
No.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett,
No.
Commissioner Rosenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yeses and 3 noes means we'll send that recommendation to the city council. Great, thanks. We have one more. I think from the same team, we'll present the next.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason, and I will be presenting on the next text amendment that relates to fences and hedges in this case. This is PLN PCM 2025-00045. Request this was, so we'll get to that I guess that's the next slide, sorry. We are recommending that you recommend approval to the city council for this amendment. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. That was this one. In January, the city council initiated a motion requesting that the planning staff research and draft an ordinance text amendment that updates the Salt Lake City Code regarding the height and location of fences, walls, and hedges. This is Title 21A 40.40.120. And of course, sorry, jumped ahead of myself there. Based on the findings listed in the staff report, and we recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval or forward a positive recommendation to the City Council. So before I get into the changes, I just want to go over briefly what the current code says. So right now, fences, walls, and hedges, they're all regulated together in the same chapter. as a general rule, in almost all areas of the city, they can be 4 feet in front of a building and then 6 feet on the side or rear areas of a building. There are a few exceptions. The aforementioned EI zones and M2 zones are allowed to have taller fences. Low-density residential zones like our R1 zones that back up onto non-residential zones are allowed to have, I believe it's up to 8 feet on the portion that borders that, as long as it's in the rear. Public utility facilities, recreational facilities, and a few other niche cases. None of these exceptions are changing as part of this text amendment. I just wanted to note them. And as I mentioned before, hedges are treated the same as fences and walls. So for this, we did some research. We looked at some other city codes, 3 cities in Utah and 3 cities from out of state, and then kind of reviewed the city master plans for what little they do have on about fences and hedges. So this is what the proposal that we came to was. So we are recommending that the fence heights behind the front facade of building in all zoning districts be allowed to be increased from 6 feet to 7 feet. There's some other cleanup provisions in this, such as right now, just in the code, there's separate residential and non-residential sections. They're pretty redundant with each other. There's a lot of overlap. So we're just kind of, and since they're going to be regulated essentially the same, they are just going to be combined into one section. Another recommendation we are making is that hedges will now be removed from the fences and walls chapter and regulated under our landscaping regulations in Ordinance 2148. I do want to note, as Commissioner Rosenfield brought up in the last one, the side distance triangle regulations are still relevant here, which I will show here in a moment. So this is what our landscaping section, this is basically the section that is going to be regulating hedges. This is under the responsibility and maintenance 21A 48.040. A couple of these, so a few of these you see not create a hedge or visual barrier between the sidewalk and street. That really just regulates the park strip. So that's not really relevant to height regulations. And as I said here, they've already in the landscaping chapter, it says landscaping cannot create obstructions within a sight distance triangle. Needs to be maintained in live condition and be kept basically free of refuse and debris. They still have to be maintained and trimmed. So this is kind of just a graphic showing what the fence regulations look like. This is essentially the same as it is now, except in the bottom there's the 7 foot, whereas now it says it has 6 feet. This is just showing the green hatched areas are where it's 4 feet is allowed. And everywhere behind that, currently 6 feet would be allowed to be 7 feet. And this is just, I wanted to include a graphic just showing the sight distance triangles, just so it can be visualized. That's just an area around driveways and street corners. And on the question from before, it's 30, nothing can be taller than 30 inches at the end of a driveway and or taller than 3 feet on a street corner. That's all also staying the same. I just wanted to kind of point out that that's what it currently says. There's a couple of other cleanup things that I just wanted to note. One of our niche cases, we do have double frontage lots, which is basically a lot that has 2 front yards essentially. So it's not a corner lot, but it has a front yard along a street, and then the backyard is also along another street on the other side. Especially in our residential zones, this is pretty uncommon. But there was a lot of just redundant language in that code, so we were just, like, for example, in that section it says they must comply with sight distance triangle requirements. That's already regulated elsewhere in the chapter, so it doesn't need to be reiterated there. And then there's the only other mention of hedges really in the code is in this 21A 4160 is just ground utility box screening. It mentions fences, walls, and hedges as appropriate screening materials. And this will just replace the mention of hedges with landscaping in general. So yeah, and again, reiterating the recommendation that we would recommend that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to open the public hearing right now, if anyone wants to speak on this request. And I don't think anyone does, so I'm going to close the public hearing. And now we can discuss or make a motion. You can ask questions of staff and if you want to. Who asked for our backyard fences to go from 6 feet to 7 feet? Why are we doing that?
That was actually a specific part of the specific recommendation in the motion from the City Council. They did actually specifically recommend 6 to 7 feet in the rear yard.
People are asking their
Yes.
city council person for taller fences.
Yeah.
Because we got taller, or
To be honest, I think that might be part of it.
do you think?
Yeah, no, like there is, in general, as nutrition has increased, the height of the average person has increased. So this is a really interesting situation where we actually see.
I was curious about that 7 foot because fencing typically comes in 6 and 8.
We actually looked into that, and you can get any sized panel. So that was one of our
So
questions.
it's not a determinant.
Not,
Okay.
no, it's not a 1 foot increment. It's any size panel. You can get a 16-foot panel.
Okay.
Everyone's going to add 1 foot of barbed wire to the top of their backyard fence after this.
What does that do for the neighborliness? I know that's
Exactly.
that's one of my
I don't
hobby
love that,
horses.
but if the city council wants to see it because they see that the public is asking for that, I don't love that, but they're going to do it anyway.
I mean, but we don't have to. We can say we don't think that's a good idea.
Yes.
Is there? So there would be theoretically no maximum height to hedges under the circumstances.
That's correct, yes. There would be no maximum height to hedges.
You know, hedges can grow to like 20 feet. That
Yeah, and that is something, I guess our intent in how we drafted this was, well, obviously hedges and fences do have some similar purpose. They also do have a very or similar function. There are some distinct differences between hedges and fences. Of course, hedges grow, and fences are just going to be installed at the height people want them. There's also, I would say, so obviously there are hedges in the city, especially when you go on the east side. There are, I would say, hedges are not there's not a highly significant number of hedges in the city, and one of the things we did consider, are people going to want to have tall hedges like that? And while I think that there are maybe a few niche cases where people would, I think typically most people I think wouldn't want a hedge that tall, and I think some people also would not. I don't think people are going to rush out to start planting hedges because they can now be taller than fences. I guess this is also kind of my logic. So just some things that we did consider. But I do understand the concern about unlimited hedge heights.
Yeah. And to just add another weird edge case, I was Googling images of, very tall hedges, and I saw a couple where the hedge was actually on top of a fencing structure. And I am wondering, what happens? Can somebody build a 4-foot tall fence and then plant hedges on top of it? Or does that end up falling under some sort of weird vegetative regulations?
There comes a point in time when you can't regulate everything.
Another thing that I think we can, when people build fences, they can have, they're required to get a permit, right? So we can see where people put fences and how tall they are, but there's not a similar way to really keep track of how hedges, can't go out there and constantly keep measuring as the city go out, be like, hey, these hedges are growing too tall. It's kind of up to enforcement and just people who are concerned about it. So that is another thought. And I think, and correct me, I guess someone can correct me if I'm wrong, if you go to this responsibility and maintenance, I would guess that even currently, this part that, obviously site distance triangles already apply, the parts where they have to be maintained like a healthy appearance and be kind of trimmed and neat, be kept free of debris and stuff, I would imagine that currently still would apply to hedges. If someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but.
Yeah, I'm sure that it would. I mean, but if it's healthy, it could certainly be taller. I think one thing that kind of you brought up is also, a hedge is alive. It's also providing environmental benefits, right? Cleaning air, helping with urban heat island, giving little critters and birds somewhere to live. So in that sense, I think a hedge and a wall are different. And just, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about fences, walls, and hedges. It went around our division many times in many conversations. So.
Yes. Number 2 here, not create a hedge or visual barrier between the sidewalk or street. That would be struck, or?
That stays in.
Yeah, but that's just on the park strip. So the park strip would be the only part, since it's between the sidewalk and the street.
Okay. Okay, so there's some other part that mentions that this is park strip only?
Sorry, this is, so this is what currently exists in the landscaping chapter, right?
Yes.
So, this, I think just generally speaking, anything that is between the sidewalk and a street would be a park strip. I don't know if.
That's the actual definition of a park strip.
Yeah. Got it.
Right
Okay.
between the sidewalk and the curb.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Just, all right. Thank you.
I had one final question, I think, is fences are required to have a permit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if a fence is put in incorrectly by a fencing contractor, then the owner has the wherewithal to sue the contractor if indeed an 8-foot was put in incorrectly, or a 9-foot or whatever. So, you see what I'm saying? I guess what I'm wanting is I want owners to be able to rely on good fencing contractors to not circumvent these regulations.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that building inspectors will go out and they'll do an inspection after, and they would be able to catch that. I can't speak to the relationship between an applicant and a contractor, but we do have an inspections department that will go out and inspect.
So if he comes to you and says, I want to put a 9-foot fence here, the desk across the hall would say, no, you can't do that, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's fair enough.
I just want to signal where I stand on this, that I am in favor of everything except for the increased height to 7 feet. So I'm just signaling to.
I was actually about to ask, is there any way that we could actually separate and have 2 motions, one addressing the 7-foot height and one addressing the hedges and text cleanup?
No, you would just make one motion that says recommending whatever you want to recommend be adopted, but excluding the provisions that you don't want to be included.
Okay, thank you. I would actually agree that I don't love the 7-foot increase.
Given folks' desire to have people who are 6 feet and above, like me, not to look into their backyards, what's the problem with 7 feet?
Well, the whole thing is, why have we defaulted until now to have short front yard fences, but now and 6-foot backyard fences. Like, up till now, we thought that was a more neighborly way to act, but now, if you have a manufacturing facility, you need a taller fence. And if you have a backyard, you need a taller fence. Like, why is that pendulum swinging? Why
Because
are we?
it's swaying away from fence height in manufacturing zones used to not be regulated. And so you could do
Oh.
whatever you wanted. And
When
so
did we
it's
start doing
swung,
that?
Probably 8 or 9 years ago. And then it swung from here to here, and now it's swinging back. So it's kind of the nature of how regulations work. As more and more people start utilizing them and maybe having concerns with them, they go and talk to their council people. Eventually, council's going to hear enough of it. They're going to be like, hey, go consider a change for this. So,
Because you used to be able to get a variance for a taller fence in your backyard, right?
no.
Never?
Variances are very, very tightly and restricted.
Yeah.
We used to have what was called a special exception process.
Yeah.
But that did allow for extra height on fences. They were almost always denied. So we eventually just got rid of all special exceptions. That was one that we didn't, at that time, increase fence height because whether they were denied at the staff level, the Planning Commission level, or the Historic Landmarks Commission, something like 98% of those requests were denied. So we're just like, let's just set the standard and go with it.
Yeah, I remember that. And that's maybe why people don't even, if they can't even like appeal now, then they're like, everyone should have 7 feet. I don't know. I don't like the 7 feet rule, but I also see that it's a legislative issue and we're not the ones getting calls saying, let's have taller fences. So I kind of think it doesn't matter, but also I need to like stick to my guns about what matters to me, right? So anyway, someone make a motion and I'll.
I can make a motion. Based on the information presented and discussion, I move that the commission forward a recommendation to adopt this text amendment to the city council. And this is for the text amendment regarding hedges in front yard and fence heights in rear yard, except that I recommend against increasing the height limit in backyards to 7 feet and recommend maintaining it at 7 feet. 6 feet. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That's a motion by Commissioner Rosenfield and a second by Commissioner Christensen. Any other activity on the motion? Okay, let's vote. Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Leverett,
No.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Nope.
Commissioner Vila.
No.
Ooh, I'm going to vote yes. So that recommendation is the one that will pass on to the city council, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for the recommendation with that one little change, 3 against. Okay, I think that's it for our agenda for today. So thank you. Come back in 2 weeks.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.